Hello and welcome to my devlog. My name is Jarmo, aka Hero Crab, and in this episode I will reveal my game and discuss some of the requirements and challenges. The talking points for this video will be 1. Game reveal, 2. Gameplay, 3. Examine the UI, and 4. Challenges. Now the game I'm working on is a spiritual successor to a game which was released in the 90s, the later 90s to be specific. Without further ado, drum roll please. Welcome to Command & Conquer Soul Survivor Online. Command & Conquer Soul Survivor Online was a game in the Command & Conquer universe. However, the difference between this game and, say for example, the Tiberian series or the Red Alert series was that in this game you only controlled a single unit. You would participate on one of 4 teams in a team deathmatch, capture the flag style of gameplay. The game boasted up to 50 online players at one time in the age of dial-up. It was, in my mind, the first ever created MOBA. There was another game mode called Free For All, but it was less popular, as Team Deathmatch Capture the Flag was the best experience. Okay, so now that my game is revealed, let's talk about some of the gameplay design aspects. First, let's observe some gameplay and I'll narrate. Okay, so what I have here is a video from YouTube, and I'm just going to hit play. We're going to talk about some of the things going on in the video, some of the game design, and perhaps why it was so fun. Once you launch the game, the first thing you were presented with was the players or the unit selection screen. In my game, I'll be recreating the first 18 units and optionally the dinos if there's a strong enough following and a big enough request. Okay, so let's go ahead and hit play. This player has selected the recon bike. So immediately upon spawning into the map, you are stealthed and indestructible. You were indestructible for a certain duration while you started to crate up. Crating up was the action of collecting crates to boost your unit stats. I'll go ahead and hit play and we'll see some of that here in action.
Acknowledge. You've been teleported. Moving out. Moving out. Mega weapon. Acknowledge.
Okay, so what we saw there was the player collecting crates. There were a number of different crates in the game. They all kind of did different things. The first were these standard crates, these standard brown crates. They would randomly increase one of your stats here, which is depicted across the top of the screen. There were also silver crates, which were mega crates, which would significantly boost one stat. While a player was collecting these crates, they would not only be improving their stats, but for a very small percentage, they would be improving the stats of everyone else on their team. This lent itself to a kind of early opening meta strategy of creating up, whereby your team would have, 1 to 2 to 3 fast units whose sole purpose was to crate up as fast as possible to build up the other stronger units.
Stealth mode. Moving out.
So the game did have some
Moving
random
out.
teleports in it.
Moving out.
As a result of getting crates, there were also these teleport beacons, which you could jump in and
Moving
teleport
out.
to a different place on the map.
Acknowledge. Stealth Moving out. mode.
Currently, as this player is playing, they don't have a map reveal crate available, so they cannot see the map. That's up here in the top right, the minimap.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Speed moving out. Upgraded. Acknowledge. Weapon upgraded. Moving out. Affirmative. Moving out. Mega moving out.
Okay, so as you can see, this unit is starting to get built up. Most of their stats are plussed up, minus range.
Affirmative. Moving out. Armor upgraded. Moving out. Moving out. Range upgraded. Affirmative.
I don't think I mentioned the green crates. The green crates would be healing if you were low health, or a nuke if you were high health. There was kind of a consequence to getting those crates if you got them at the inappropriate time.
Range upgraded. Nuclear bomb. Moving out. Speed
Moving
upgraded.
out.
Moving out. Ion cannon. Moving out. Moving out.
We'll go ahead and keep hitting play here until we see some combat so I can discuss some of the combat game mechanics.
Health upgraded. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out.
Okay, so in the single player version of the game, there were kind of random structures on the map. These did not exist in multiplayer mode.
Moving out. Moving out. Acknowledge.
Okay, great. Some player versus player. So in Command & Conquer Soul Survivor, you could have up to 50 players on the map. What you're seeing here really is just one player clicking around the map, creating up, while there's a couple AI bots on the map. Not really representative of the overall gameplay. So I'll try and describe it to you as best as I can. As you create it up, you would start encountering enemy opponents. They would be from 1 to 4 teams. Each unit was essentially designed differently, so they would all have a different way to micro them. In this video, the player is playing a recon bike. The recon bike was fast, and it could move and shoot, move and shoot. I don't know how much of that we'll see in this video, but it was definitely a fun unit to play. This unit over here is a Humvee. The Humvee could essentially just follow you around and maximize its range and just keep putting consistent damage on you. It could also lead you. It was a fairly quick unit and could get crates before you could. Which brings me to some core game design mechanics. One of the things that this game had was a feature called sealing, whereby a player would go lead an opponent or lead a bunch of opponents and start grabbing all the crates, right? Obviously avoiding the green ones, which could damage them, in order to prevent the other team from sealing up or from creating up. This was known as sealing. Add that to the mix of combat and you start to get quite a chaotic picture. For example, if this recon can move, shoot, then it can effectively lead a target, grab crates, and fire while in combat, and dodge, anyone that's firing on it. Add in the Humvee, and you have someone that can maximize range and kind of follow the unit around without exposing itself too much. Now add in 5, 10, 15 more units, all moving, shooting, microing in different ways to achieve different objectives while creating up, while trying to deny their opponent's crates and healing at the same time. It created a very almost chaotic, fighty and flighty experience, which I have not seen on any game since. I'll go ahead and hit play here and we'll see if anything happens in this battle.
Moving out. Health upgraded. Acknowledge. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Moving out. Make a rapid reload. Moving out. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Affirmative. Make a weapon.
Okay, so that battle was not the greatest representation of micro, but this player obviously knows they're just versing AI. You'll have to use your imagination to get what I'm communicating.
Acknowledge. Moving out. Health upgraded. Acknowledge. Range upgraded. Moving out.
Okay. Also, one of the game design mechanics that I want to highlight here is, let me actually find a scene where we can see the unit. Okay, so the unit is restricted to movement in 8 directions. It can move north, east, south, west, and then the diagonals. That's it. Essentially, when you move the unit, you can't ascertain exactly the path it's going to take to get there. Yes, it's using an algorithm. Yes, it's probably the same every time. But as a player, when moving around the map, there was a bit of randomness to the way that units moved. Go ahead and hit play for some more.
Acknowledge. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Moving out. Acknowledge. Moving out. Moving out. Acknowledge. Affirmative. Acknowledge. Moving out.
Okay, so another game design mechanic. As units began getting created up, they became very fast. You add in some of the dynamics that I described earlier, along with the pathing algorithm, along with the speed, and the flights, again, or the fights were very fluid, kind of chaotic, and they evolved as the battle was going on.
Moving out. Acknowledge. Moving out. Moving out.
Okay, we'll pause there and talk about some of the objectives of the gameplay, which you won't really see in this video because it's just a single player. So as I mentioned, there could be up to 50 people in a match. There would be bases in each quadrant of the minimap here, or of the map, and they would all be coordinating which base they were going to destroy in order to capture that opponent's flag. For example, if I'm in the lower left-hand quadrant here, and I'm attacking the base north of me, the team would be working to move across the map effectively as possible to get the flag and retrieve it from the base. And there were a lot of game design mechanics included around capturing the flag. One, when a unit would capture the flag, it would lose its speed. Now, not all units would lose their speed. Some units would retain some of their speed. This meant that some units were actually more effective at capturing the flag than other units. For example, infantry, the recon bike, and the Raptor Dino were very quick with the flag, so they became naturally capping units. Conversely, there were units which were good at killing those type of units, for example, the commando or the flame tank. And so you would have units start to be pushed into certain roles like offense, base defense, base destruction, long range base destruction, etc. And it really lent itself to a MOBA feel before MOBA was even a thing. That's one of the reasons why I'm hoping to recreate the feel of this game. Okay, I'll return to my talking points and we'll see where we are. Okay, so we've talked about the game reveal. We've talked about some of the gameplay. You had to use your imagination there. Unfortunately, there was no video recording back in those days, really, at scale. And then next, we'll look at some of the UI. The UI is fairly simple. And we'll just examine this screen here. So across the top, you have the 5 stat attributes and progress bars. Then in the top right, you have the minimap. It had a fog of war. It had a unidirectional one-way fog of war. In other words, once you visited an area of the map, it was forever visible. Unless someone on your team got a shroud crate, and then the map would be shrouded. So again, a theme of kind of randomness. Over on the right here, you had a leaderboard, a real-time leaderboard, which would be updated. It was sorted based on player score. I'm considering using this, but putting it in such that when you press the tab key, it can be, it'll sweep out from the right here. Okay, so the next item is in the lower right-hand corner was a status panel, which had the number of players, the number of time remaining, and then any global parameters. And finally, at the bottom here, you had a chat screen where players could text with or could chat with each other or send each other whispers. So that's essentially the UI in a nutshell. Okay, now to the challenges. So there are 2 primary challenges I see with recreating the look and feel of this game. Number 1 is the minimap, or the map itself. Command & Conquer maps were 2D, and so recreating a 2D and 3D is kind of a challenge. For example, if you look at this map here, this platform here appears to be raised, yet in a 2D game, it's on the same plane. The challenges with 3D are I'd have to create this at a raised level, so this would be higher elevation, and this would be lower elevation. The problem with that then is if I have a tank here or a unit here and it's shooting left to something on top of the platform, the munitions will go right into the mesh of the map. If I render those on top, it may work, but it may look really goofy, especially in perspective mode. Now in orthographic mode, that may not be as much of a concern, which I guess we'll see. Another issue, or the second item that's a challenge with maps, are the cliff faces themselves. This would be quite a bit of 3D modeling, and I like to be able to quickly recreate these maps in a manner that lends itself to the gameplay and the feel without having to do this level of modeling. So I'm going to be using some shaders, and I'm going to hopefully be able to introduce some noise here in the mesh and create kind of a rock cliff feeling. And then I'll be going through the maps, or at least this map as an example. I don't know if I'll be recreating them exactly. I don't know that that's necessarily permissible, but I will be using them as a guide. And this ramp, this will become a slope here to get up. So I'll be going through these maps and kind of looking at them saying, oh, if I was to do this map, this would be raised, this would be lower, and there would be a ramp here. Okay, so that's challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, I already mentioned a little bit, and that comes back down to this video. The units were only able to move in 8 directions. In a full 3D engine, typically, you can move things anywhere. You can move a unit anywhere. So I'd have to either look at some type of pathing algorithm which restricts movement to 8 directions, or I'd have to modify an existing pathing algorithm to create that same feel. Why is that feel important? Well, the overall tone and experience of this game that I think is lacking in a lot of other games simply is fun. The game only featured a very, very simple control for the unit. You had left click. You had left click, or you could control left click. Control left click would attack ground, essentially. So why was the game so fun if it only had such a simple game mechanic of clicking? And my conclusion, after playing it and thinking about it, reflecting on it, and looking at these videos, was that the game presented simple gameplay and team coordination. You could work as a team in a fairly randomized, chaotic environment. So there were crates randomly everywhere. There were different types of crates. Every time you got a crate, it was an RNG as to what type of stat you got. The pathing and movement to get there was a little chaotic. The battles were definitely chaotic, especially with 5 to 10 units all attacking different targets, working towards different objectives. And then when you would capture a flag, trying to escort the flag carrier back was very chaotic, very exciting. And I just feel that in order to capture that essence of the game, I need to adhere to some of these design constraints that were present in the original game. Else, I feel like I'd be able to create a replica or a spiritual successor, but it wouldn't quite satisfy the feeling that this game was able to provide. So those are my talking points, and that is essentially what I have. We went over the game reveal, we looked a little bit at the gameplay using some imagination, we examined the UI, and then we talked about some of the challenges. So that is what I have, and I hope to be recreating this with fairly consistent content updates. If you're interested in this, or you played the original game, or you're a fan of the game, the original game, please like and subscribe and follow me. I'd like to develop a following for this game so that I can ask for feedback on certain design elements and have at least a player base to tell me this works, this doesn't work, and we can go down this path together. So that's what I have. Thank you very much for watching.